What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Out Moments Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, and joining me, as always, are Robert DeFelice.
Today you can call me Spark Plug Bob DeFelice.
Okay, joining me, as always, is Spark Plug Bob DeFelice.
Start your engines, guys.
And Callum Wiggins.
You're such a mark.
Spark Plug Mark DeFelice?
Yes.
Or am I the Mark now? What's the thing there?
Oh, he can be Mark Plug instead of Spark Plug.
There you go. That works even better. Mark Plug Bob DeFelice. Well, what we're going to be talking about here is Fastlane 2019. So there you go. Start your engines for that. Because Roadblock doesn't exist anymore, even though that's the better name. And we are going to break down the, 8 matches that they've announced already. They keep just sort of throwing some different things out there. They've fucked me over 6 times over the past hour on Monday Night Raw with different things and stuff. So who knows? They might add some more things. But at least as far as Wednesday afternoon, this is the lineup that we've got going on. We're going to break it down step by step, one by one, talk about the predictions and any other thoughts that we have going forward for this. So we invite you guys to do the same in the comments section below on YouTube, or if you are listening on iTunes and Stitcher, just drop a comment wherever the hell else you can, or, send a tweet or something like that, whatever. So Fastlane is normally the event that is completely pointless. It's usually filled with a bunch of rematches and like feeding other people for WrestleMania and stuff like that. But I have to say, it's not looking all that bad this year for the most part. This is one of the few times where I feel like maybe there's actual stakes to some of these matches and stuff. So I'm not as down on Fastlane as I normally would be. I still hate the name, but yeah, I'm kind of up for this event. What about you guys? You feeling it?
It's a pretty good pre-WrestleMania event. They definitely have us on our toes this year. It doesn't seem as formulaic as the road to WrestleMania has seemed in recent years.
I don't know if that's a plan, though, or if that's just them being all haphazard and chaotic.
I think the show looks good. It probably will be a good event. There's plenty of decent matches on there. I mean, I would prefer an extended build between Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania and have these matches take place on, I don't know, an episode of Raw or SmackDown, wherever they're the best fit. But as just a final pay-per-view before WrestleMania, it has a lot of potential about it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, for the most part, some of these matches didn't need to take place at all. Some of them could have just happened at Elimination Chamber, and some of them just could have happened on Raw and SmackDown. But all things considered, we've had like 5 fast lanes in the past, and this one looks like it measures up a little bit better than the other ones do. So I'm going to kind of keep that optimism as much as I can going forward and apply that to at least the kickoff match that we've got, which is Andrade versus Rey Mysterio, which at first I had thought was like their 8th match. And I ran the numbers and all that, and if you count just television shows and pay-per-views and stuff, it's really only like their 6th. But that's if you count, I think, Royal Rumble. So that doesn't really count, They had a match for qualifier for the Survivor Series team. They had a 2 out of 3 falls match, a regular match, a tag team match, and they've been a part of a triple threat and a fatal 4-way now. So honestly, it's not all that like beaten into the ground, and I'm of like a 50-50 type of split when it comes to this. Part of me says the matches are great. That's very cool that they're doing this, and I'm just happy that they're doing it. And then part of me goes, yeah, but you know what? There's no stakes attached to this. There's nothing on the line. There's no stipulation. And why don't we have an Intercontinental title match or a United States title match, or make this some kind of a blow off that it wouldn't be on the kickoff or something like that? It's, I can kind of see both ends of the spectrum here. How you guys feeling about this?
Is there no other match that can be on the kickoff? Like, this match should be on the pay-per-view, I feel.
Oh yeah, that'd be my one criticism of the fact is this match is going to totally kick ass, and so it should be on the main show. But if there's any match that's going to get you to tune in and watch the kickoff show, if anything else would, this is the one to do it with. Because these two are two of the best workers in the company right now, and they put on great match, and they've got amazing chemistry with each other, and they put on great matches. So I'm hoping they get about 20 minutes because it's just a pre-show. What else do you really need to talk about?
I mean, if you look at the rest of the card, I don't think anything else could have gone on the pre-show instead. But they still could have been able to put another match onto the card, you know? I mean, like I just said, there's no IC title match. There's no US title match. I would have rather been up for the idea that despite that they don't have the automatic rematch clause, maybe R-Truth gets a shot to win the title back from Samoa Joe, and that gets on the pre-show, you know?
Yeah.
I'd rather watch a good match.
On the pre-show?
If it's just a pre-show thing, then I don't see why it needs to be a big storyline deal. You can have R-Truth versus Samoa Joe on the next episode of SmackDown. If I'm gonna like sit down and watch the thing from start to finish, then I want to see the best matches that I can, and this is a better match than pretty much anything WWE can put together right now.
Oh, I mean for them to then move Andrade and Mysterio to the main card, not to boot it.
Oh, so you'd rather put a title match on the pre-show than this?
Yeah, for the US title with R-Truth in it, yeah.
Oh, I guess I can understand that for like a lesser match, but I guess the idea of the kickoff show is it's meant to entice you to watch the main show if you aren't already subscribed to the WWE Network. So this match is probably the best option of doing that, because you watch it and think, wow, the show's going to be amazing, and then nothing lives up to it. And they've just taken $10 of your money.
So many people have settled into, I'm not going to watch the pre-show. So.
Right.
Yeah.
But they need matches to do that. You can't, if that's I know the attitude they probably should be taking is, we shouldn't be doing this, or we should make it half an hour long because no one cares about it anyway. And that's the attitude that probably most people that watch the kickoff shows would want them to take. But if they don't want to give up on it and still think that it has some value, then they need to put good matches on it like this, because that's the only hope they have of attracting people to watch it.
I mean, ideally, and this applies to, especially when it comes to like WrestleMania next month, they really should just say, we don't have a 2-hour pre-show. We have a half an hour pre-show, and the pay-per-view starts an hour and a half earlier. And then people would show up. Like, that's one of the issues with the pre-show, is when it comes to the WrestleMania pre-show, guaranteed they're going to start shit off with either one of the Battle Royals or the Cruiserweight Championship, and there's going to be nobody in the fucking arena because they're going to still be, like, trying to find their seat. They might not have even been opening up the doors for certain sections yet. And then people are going to be like, well, you know, the show said it was supposed to start at 7, and here we are at 5, and I can't sit down and watch these matches because it's the pre-show. And be like, well, you're only calling it the pre-show because you're calling it the pre-show. You don't have to do that. You can say Andrade versus Rey Mysterio is on the main card, and just, you know, the pre-show is, because the pre-show's 6 p.m. Eastern for Fastlane? I think it's 6 p.m.
Yeah, it's 6 o'clock.
So say pre-show at 6 p.m., pay-per-view starts at 6:30. And then that's it. And then people go, all right, I'll tune in at 6:30. Like, it's that kind of like perception type thing. Like, if you tell people something is $4.99, they don't say it's $5 in their brain, you know? So it just kind of sucks that there's nothing like, there's no stipulation that's attached to this to kind of get people enticed to watch it. And a lot of people probably aren't going to see it because it's on the pre-show, and they're going to miss out on a good match because these guys work really, really well together. And this match might be actually the best match on the card. And then people won't see it. So.
Well, more fool them then. It's their own fault if they don't want to watch it.
Yeah, true. Fuck them. That's a good.
Yeah,
that's a good philosophy.
The attitude stake. Yeah.
When in doubt, fuck them.
Yep.
So, since there are no stakes, nothing is on the line and all that. Either one of these two could win. You could pretty much flip a coin. However, I would say Andrade took the pin this past week on SmackDown, so I kind of want Andrade to win to kind of offset that.
I think Andrade is winning. It'll give him a big victory, even if it's, on the pre-show, it's still a pay-per-view setting. And I think Andrade wins here. And unfortunately, maybe they don't go to WrestleMania one-on-one. I would love to see them do it because their feud has been really good, but maybe they don't.
I'm going to go slightly left field on this one. I'm going to go no contest.
I would have if I am not reserving that for something else later.
Oh, that's fair enough then. But I'm going for the no contest, just along the lines of I think we're going to get a mask versus hair match at WrestleMania, or at least that is my hope, and I will cling on to that hope until I'm proven otherwise. So, and that's the way of doing it, is making sure this is a match which neither man wins, or their intensity boils over to the point where they just can't do it. I would love to have a situation where they have to start Fastlane with these two still fighting because they haven't been able to settle the match, or they start Fastlane and they're still beating the crap out of each other in the ring. Like the referee's been calling it out, but they're still fighting. That'd be such an interesting way of doing it.
It really would be, because that's the type of shit. They don't do pyro anymore, so start the pay-per-view with that, and that would be such a good way to get people talking. Why don't they do shit like that?
Well, we can always hope they will. They won't, but we can always hope for it. But I'm still going to cling on to the idea that these two need to have a singles match at WrestleMania, and the stake and stipulation you put onto it is Mysterio's mask on the line, and Andrade's hair is on the line.
I love that idea.
Or if you really wanted to go extreme with it, you put Zelina Vega's hair on the line.
I was going to ask that question.
You put Zelina Vega on the line.
Although you may have to answer to Aleister Black if that's the
case. That'd be really fun. Now I would hope to see that. Don't think it'll happen, but again, you can always have hope.
Now if you go with the no contest thing, I'll say this. I was thinking no contest until, oh fuck it, I'll just spoil it, until the Charlotte Flair Becky Lynch thing got announced. But I would think if they go with a no contest for Andrade Mysterio, the way that they need to do it is they can't have somebody obviously attack them. It needs to be something like both their shoulders are down. Or do you go with the whole the referee throws it out because they're fighting and it's like a double count out or something?
I could either see the double count out, or I could see a situation of Mysterio dives to the outside onto Andrade, and then when he's about to get back in the ring, Andrade pulls him off and stuff and hits a big move or something, and then they both just don't manage to get back into the ring. And then Andrade gets frustrated, starts beating the crap out of Rey Mysterio. I'd almost have it quite one-sided. It'd be cool to have the visual of them both just waning on each other and showing how intense their rivalry is, but it would be just as effective to have Andrade do that, where he's basically got the win, but he just can't get into the ring quickly enough, and so he just unleashes so much frustration onto Rey Mysterio. I could see it either way.
I'd be cool with that. I'm cool with something that isn't just a straight up Rey Mysterio beats Andrade and that's the end of the feud type bullshit. I don't want to see that happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's move over to the match that I think probably would have been on the pre-show had it not been, that they did the Andrade Mysterio thing, which is the Raw Tag Team Championship triple threat match. The Revival are, well, all right, just set the backstory in case you haven't been watching Monday Night Raw. The Revival had a match with Aleister Black and Ricochet, and it seemed like Black and Ricochet had the titles won. Although Bobby Roode and Chad Gable came out, they attacked the Revival out of frustration that they had lost the titles to begin with at, was it Royal Rumble? They lost the titles?
It was an episode of Raw.
Oh, an episode of Raw. That's what it was. So now instead of it being okay, well, Black and Ricochet just get a straight up rematch, Chad Gable and Bobby Roode are thrown into the mix too. It's a triple threat. And that, I think, pinpoints exactly what's going to happen here. The only reason Chad Gable and Bobby Roode are in this match is to take the loss to keep the belts on the Revival. That way, Aleister Black and Ricochet...
Black Mass, 6:30, and then one of the Revival throws him out of the ring.
Yep.
Yep.
It has to be what happens.
I'm totally in agreement with that. I don't see them switching titles. The booking of the Revival, we could also go on to a huge diatribe about it because they give them the championships seemingly to, maybe they think that was the boost to the ego that they needed when they were making all these claims that they wanted to leave and get released. And so, okay, so now you're champions, but we want you to lose to basically every team you face up until the pay-per-view. And you'll keep hold of it by cheating, but, that's great, right? That's heat. But, I think they'll keep hold of it, and they'll keep hold of it into WrestleMania, where they probably won't have a match, or if they do have a match, it'll be another multi-man scramble thing.
It'll be them against Heavy Machinery or something.
I can see them in the Battle Royal.
Either it's Heavy Machinery in a solo thing on the pre-show, and they bump something else past it, like the Andrade or something like that, or they go with like Heavy Machinery, Ryder and Hawkins, and they just multi-man fuck around with that.
Yeah, but this match, if given a considerable amount of time, could be really, really good.
Yeah.
All three of these teams know what they're doing, so like even the Gable and Roode pairing, which we'd thought 6 months ago, we thought that this was just gonna be a short-term thing where Roode eventually turns heel on Chad Gable, and then they just move on to their own feud. They've actually turned into a reasonably cohesive team.
We underestimated how little WWE cared for either of them. Where they would just go, fuck it, stay in the goddamn tag team,
Yep.
Yeah, the Black and Ricochet, they can't be winning the Raw tag team titles. And we're not going to spoil much when it comes to NXT, but they have plans in NXT right now, and they potentially could have more plans in NXT because there's an injury. We'll see. But I just can't see two NXT people that wrestle on Raw and SmackDown on the side being Raw tag team champions. So the Revival need to win, and they're not going to beat Black and Ricochet. They're going to beat Gable and Roode.
But Black and Ricochet have to be factored in to Mania in some way, shape, or form at this point, right?
I don't think so.
I think they've pretty much established that they're full-time main roster, and if they're not going to stay in a tag team for WrestleMania, then I would think Intercontinental title.
It wouldn't shock me at all if WWE says, you know what, we just need these people for that push until Fastlane, and then we've got, 3 weeks? 4 weeks after Fastlane? Where they do this? Wait, we got, Fastlane's the 10th, so we got 1, 2, 3...
4 weeks.
4 weeks. So 4 weeks worth of material that they would need to do before WrestleMania. They might say, we don't really need the NXT people. Those 4 weeks can be Batista and Triple H, the whole setting up whatever the Intercontinental title feud is, setting up whatever the US title feud is, et cetera, et cetera. They might think that that's good enough, Thanks for coming in and saving us during this time frame where we didn't want to do our fucking jobs, and then go back down to NXT.
Well, considering the fact that both men have already given farewell speeches and stuff like that, I don't think they're going back permanently, although the recent development might change that.
No, permanently, no. I think that they're coming right up to the main roster afterward, but at the same time, they can kind of do what they sort of have done in the past, where they just sort of ignore people. Think about it. Samoa Joe came up to the main roster, started a feud with Seth Rollins, and then a month later didn't compete at all at WrestleMania, not even in the Andrade.
That is true.
I'm just thinking this is a straight up Revival beat Gable and Roode. Black and Ricochet are like, hey, you guys didn't lose, but you didn't win. And then that's the end of it, sort of. And then they continue to fuck off with the Revival and whatever. They don't get their entrances and shit. We're all going to Revival, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, different possible story when it comes to the SmackDown Tag Team Championship, because the Usos are defending against The Miz and Shane McMahon. Remember that there's no automatic rematch clause, unless they just go, fuck it, let's just have an automatic rematch. Which is what is happening from the Elimination Chamber thing. The Usos won the titles at Elimination Chamber on The Miz and Shane McMahon's first title defense. And this is sort of a split deal. Do you go with that they hot potatoed the title just to eat up a month worth of time, and they put it back on The Miz and Shane McMahon, and they hold them going into WrestleMania? Or do we do what we have been assuming is going to be the case? Miz and Shane McMahon fail, and we get Miz versus Shane McMahon at WrestleMania, and the Usos go up against something like the Hardy Boys.
Right now, I see it Miz and Shane 1-on-1. Usos, New Day, Hardys, ladder match.
I think the Usos retaining here. I don't know whether they'll do the split between Miz and Shane here, or they'll build up to it, or even if they will have a match at WrestleMania at this point, because WrestleMania's getting awfully crowded with the sort of prospective ideas as well as the ones that are already confirmed. I mean, they're doing something on SmackDown at the moment where the teams that seem to be in contention for the top championship are the Hardy Boys, the Bar, Rusev and Nakamura, and strangely enough, Aleister Black and Ricochet. So they seem to be the four teams that are underneath it, while the New Day are busy concentrating on trying to get Kofi's championship match. So I think we could easily see a fatal four-way for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship between the Usos and three of those teams.
And it'll probably be a ladder match.
I think if the Hardys are there, it's a ladder match.
I think they might give that one to the Intercontinental title. And maybe they won't even have a ladder match because they've got Money in the Bank coming up immediately after WrestleMania as well.
That is true.
So they might think, oh, we can't put a ladder match on here because we're going to have 2 or 3 ladder matches at the next show. So
you know what they'll do? They'll cop out and go, it's a 4 corners match or a fatal 4-way, whatever they call it. And since it's no DQ, you guys can use ladders, but we're not going to call it a ladder match.
Well, they can just make it a TLC match because that's not a ladder match.
You know what they'll do? We'll get a regular one here, and then in freaking Saudi Arabia, they'll give us the Usos and the Hardys.
That's
or
right.
The Usos, Hardys, and New Day in a ladder match.
I forgot. Saudi's next. That's so stupid. And it probably will be the case, too, because it's probably like the Prince of Saudi Arabia is like, I want a TLC match. I want fucking
a
Dudley
Hardy
Boys
Boy
back.
ladder match? Hell yeah.
God, I hate that paid for shit. Unless it's me that's booking it.
America.
This is the first year that I don't know if I'm going to do fantasy booking for WrestleMania. It's really fucking difficult. Like, how do you factor in all these people leaving? How do you factor in the Roman Reigns leukemia situation? How do you go back in time with fucking Brock Lesnar holding the title? And I might not do it this year. I don't know. But at least with the Usos and the Miz and Shane McMahon, I feel more confident in saying that the Miz and Shane McMahon lose and that we get a singles match, even though I still don't see that that's necessarily the right way to go. I don't think that the Miz should turn heel. And I can't see Shane McMahon turning heel right now. So it's sort of like, what do? You know? It'd be kind of shitty if they spent all this time building up the Miz to actually get cheered, and then they turn him heel again.
You act like that's beneath them.
Nah, I'm not saying it's beneath them. I'm just saying it's stupid. Which is totally not beneath them.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, this is something that I'm just completely up in the air about. It could go either way. I'm still not even entirely convinced they are even going to have a match at WrestleMania, just because of the number of matches that are also being determined. But if they are going to have one, I would assume Miz will be the heel, or at least Miz will play heel for that one.
Probably, because it's the easier thing to do. It's just, the Miz is good at being a heel.
And at the moment, they're telling a storyline where every McMahon except Vince McMahon is a babyface.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
and Shane McMahon's kind of a babyface as it is. Like,
yeah. So it wouldn't have surprised me that Shane would have been the one who was originally supposed to turn heel, but plans have changed in the meantime.
Plans have changed so much that, I mean, this is like looking like WrestleMania 32, where it's just sort of like, fuck it, we don't know, we'll figure it out the end of March kind of shit.
I'm looking forward to this one more than WrestleMania 32.
Yeah.
Oh, that's at least partially because it's so chaotic that it's like, what are they going to do? But
WrestleMania 32 was just not very good on any of
it. Well, you put garbage out there, what do you expect? You know? I'm kind of in that position now that I wish I would have been able to get tickets again. You know? It's really annoying. But I'm not going to be able to. So, SmackDown tag title match. I am sticking with the Usos retaining the titles. I think that they want to keep them in WWE. That's why they put the titles on them. I think that they want to do Usos Hardy Boys. Whether or not the Bar or any of the other teams kind of get factored in, it's totally up in the air. But, yeah. What do you guys got on Usos?
Usos.
Usos win. They go to WrestleMania to have a unification match with the Revival, and then they both just in the middle of the ring decide that they don't want to be in WWE anymore, and they hand over the championships to both Jackson brothers.
We tell you what, that would get people talking.
and also to just mark the unification of it, the AEW tag team titles are purple.
And they get 205 Live, right?
Hell yeah. Buddy Murphy jumped ship as well.
Yeah. God, I have no idea what they're doing with that Cruiserweight title at WrestleMania. This tournament just does not make any sense to me.
Hey, Buddy Murphy against Cedric Alexander. We've not seen that before, Eric.
I'm leaning towards that they're doing Tony Nese, and it's like, but then they would have to turn Tony Nese babyface, and they tried that, and it failed miserably.
They're going to do Nese. I just realized why. He's a New York guy. Yeah. They're going to do Nese.
It should be Drew Gulak. I'm praying to God it's Drew Gulak.
I don't know. If they do that, though, they need to take advantage of having, like, the giant Titantron needs to be a giant PowerPoint presentation.
Oh, yeah, it should.
And then that would end up being my Smark Out moment for the year. People will be like, why didn't you pick the Roman Reigns leukemia I'm back type thing? I'll be like, yeah, but did you see how big that PowerPoint was? Imagine a crowd of like 70,000 people going, my PowerPoint presentation. That'd be so good. God, I miss that. Go back in time to when I hated Drew Gulak. There was a time frame where I'm like, why don't they just fire this fucking guy? He's so awful and all this. And then it's like, wow, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, no Cruiserweight title match on the card. No tournament match for the Cruiserweights on Fastlane either because they only have 2 matches left for this. We're already going to just skip right to it. But we do have the Women's Tag Team Championship match. There's no transition for that whatsoever. I don't know why I went with that one. The Boston Hug Connection.
In this one.
Yeah.
Well, at least on one side.
That's true. Yeah, the Boston Hug Connection and their first title defense against Nia Jax and Tamina because why not? That's essentially it. They beat them already Elimination Chamber. We know that they're not losing the titles. But hey, they're the biggest threats. So gets them on the card. I'm not opposed to it, but at the same time, I kind of wish that they would have gone with something else. Because nobody believes that they're actually going to lose these titles. And, you know, if they're going to do that, then why not have them up against the Iconics? You know, just for something different.
I would have been a fan of that.
I mean, it would have been good to have to emphasize the fact that this is cross-brand by having somebody from SmackDown rather than having 2 Raw teams. But it's easier to book that way, I guess, really. But it seems pretty straightforward. It would seem a bit of a dampener on the entire situation if Nia Jax and Tamina went to win the championships, because that would just entail that Bayley and Sasha Banks win them back at WrestleMania when you could do a much bigger match with those 2.
I think they're going to do a huge match with those 2.
They're not doing Trish and Lita.
I don't know. I don't know if they'll do Trish and Lita, but I think they're going to do a big match, even if it's like you get the best possible teams you can assemble from all 3 brands. Well, they're going to do something special.
Here's the thing. They only had 3 real options that they could do for it. They either could do Trish and Lita, the Bella Twins, or somebody from Raw, somebody from SmackDown, and somebody from NXT. If they go with the 3 different brands versus the Boston Hug Connection, the NXT duo has to be Sky Pirates. Which maybe Io Shirai might go up against Shayna Baszler on TakeOver, and that's kind of up in the air. It might be Bianca Belair, it might be Io Shirai. SmackDown side of things, I would assume you'd go with Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, but you could go with the Iconics. And then it would pretty much be Fire Desire. And then on Raw, it would have had to have been Nia Jax and Tamina, which would have been like, well then, fuck, why not go with, for Fastlane, the Riot Squad? You know, like that would have made more sense, or the Iconics. You know, whoever else would have been not in the mix.
Well, Bailey and Sasha Banks at the Raw team.
Well, then you're doing a triple threat then.
Yeah, well, that's what you do. You have a Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT.
The rumor I had heard was Fatal 4-Way.
Oh, in which case, I can understand putting the right
force
squad in.
those goddamn Bella Twins in there.
Unless you wanted to like shoehorn Alexa Bliss into a match and put her and Mickey James in.
Yeah, that's true. They could just do that.
Although apparently Alexa Bliss is injured again, so
no, she put something out there saying that she's not.
Well, I guess there's always the assumption, because if she's not wrestling on house shows, there's always the assumption because she's getting a bit of a reputation about her.
I kind of lean more towards the idea that they're probably going to do the Battle Royal again, and if they do that, that Alexa is going to be in that, just to kind of give it like some star power and stuff.
I guess so.
But yeah, I think that like that would have been a mistake unless you do the whole thing with that they're the Raw representation and we don't have Nia Jax and Tamina in there, and you have Boston Hug versus Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville, and Sky Pirates, and then in that case, that's a pre-show to me. Like that's not all that great. I like all 6 of those women, but at the same time, I would be kind of annoyed if I were like, for instance, like the Raw Tag Team titles, if they would get bumped to the pre-show and then that match would be on there. I'd be like, motherfucker, like, you know, you're trying to keep us in the company and you're going to do all this kind of shit over and over again. So I'm leaning towards that Trish and Lita thing. But even if it's not Trish and Lita, even if it's the Bell Twins, it has to be Boston Hug. Like, Banks and Bailey are the money team. They're definitely beating Nia Jax and Tamina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the match might not even be all that bad. It's Fastlane. I'm not going into it expecting it to be a 5-star classic.
I was going to say that I hope that Bailey and Sasha Banks have their working boots on. Because they're going to need to do a lot of heavy lifting in this match, in many ways.
I will say this: if I had the option of Bailey and Sasha lose here and get it back at Mania versus Bailey and Sasha in a 2-on-2 against the Bellas, I'd rather see them lose here. But hopefully that won't happen, so I'm going Banks and Bailey.
Let's move over to the SmackDown Women's Tag Team, or SmackDown Women's Tag Team, the SmackDown Women's Championship match. We've got Asuka against Mandy Rose, which seemed like it would potentially be in the running to be switched up, but Asuka got dropped on her head, and she seems like she's perfectly fine, so that's good. That might mean that they cut this match short, though.
What's a SmackDown Women's Championship? I thought there was only a Raw Women's Championship.
Oh, if you're a writer on WWE, then clearly that's what you think, because they put the title on Asuka to get it off of the whole Becky and Charlotte thing. And then Royal Rumble comes around, and then they go, we'll figure it out. And then like 2 weeks before Fastlane, they go, fuck, we didn't figure it out. So this whole build has been, well, what's the easiest way we could do something? I don't know, have somebody pin Asuka. And then they're immediately the number 1 contender. Who's it going to be? I don't know. Fucking we like Mandy. That's it.
It's just an embarrassingly bad situation in the regards of, yes, they're pushing. It's great on one side of things where you've got the new Women's Tag Team Championships and you're pushing your biggest storyline at the moment is the women's feud, which is fantastic. But then you just got completely other side of things where you've got this other champion who didn't compete on SmackDown anywhere between what was it, Royal Rumble and the first week after Elimination Chamber.
Mm-hmm.
Like she just wasn't on at all, and to build up this match, you just have her lose to a distraction roll up, which is just, it's so un-Asuka to do this situation. But in terms of the actual match itself, now that we've got to this situation, this could be a big opportunity for Mandy Rose. I think, especially with the idea of the injury that may have happened over on the house show stuff, that people like target Mandy Rose because she fits into a stereotype of she's blonde, she's got big boobs, she's very attractive, so she can't wrestle. When actually she's pretty good. I wouldn't say she's amazing, but for 4 years experience, she's pretty good. And Asuka's got 15 years experience. So, and if people expecting, oh, Asuka's going to carry this match, well, she fucking should. She's like,
Yeah, she really should.
she's four times as experienced as Mandy Rose is, pretty much. So you just go along those lines, and yeah, Asuka should be the one who's probably the more experienced than, but she could give Mandy Rose the best match of her career, and Mandy could more than hold her own in this thing. The problem is, I don't think they're going to give her much time, partly because Asuka may be hurt, or may not be at 100% at the very least. And also, there's a load of other matches on this card which are probably they're going to devote more time to because the feud's been built up better than this one.
It just goes to show you how, despite all the writers and all the people that could be doing things, and 5 hours of television each week, they still run into this problem where they say, we can't multitask. Like, how many times have we ignored the United States title over the past year? And how did we get a month that we just completely ignored the SmackDown Women's title? When you've got so many things that are like, well, we need to do 3 of these segments each time. No, you don't need that. You don't need to have that. They just prioritize things as being like, well, fuck it. We just, who cares about Asuka? And then it's like, well, then people start not caring about Asuka. Now, going into WrestleMania, I'm assuming that Asuka's holding the championship. They could just pull a fast one and have Mandy Rose win, but what are they going to do? They're going to do like this whole stupid shit where they go, well, we've invested in this Lacey Evans walk down to the ramp, and that's the end of it, and that's going to be our big fucking match for the SmackDown Women's title is Asuka against Lacey Evans. Like, that's really lame.
If you believe the reports, yes, it is.
It's really shitty.
I choose not to believe
great.
reports like that.
I don't know.
I would be surprised. That's the thing. I wouldn't be surprised.
Because what else are they going to do too? Like, Asuka has no challengers on SmackDown.
Well, I've always, since knowing that the Raw Women's Championship was going to be the main event anyway, is the idea of you just have the winner of the Battle Royal challenge her on the night.
That really would be like the only way to get some interest.
Add some stakes to that match, gets a few more eyes on the pre-show, and then you can build up one star in like one fell swoop of having them win the match, and then you challenge it. And it doesn't matter if it's Raw, SmackDown, or NXT, because clearly there's 2 SmackDown women that are battling for the Raw Women's Championship right now, so it doesn't matter. That's why the idea of like an Ember Moon thing would work if Ember Moon wasn't injured.
Well, hopefully she'll be back in time, because that's what I wanted to begin with before she got hurt.
But yeah, whether it's Ember Moon or Ruby Riott or Shayna Baszler, or even if it is Lacey Evans or Natalya or anything along those lines, then at least you've built up a challenger by having them go through basically every other person on the women's roster to get a shot. So that makes it sound good.
I just have like so little faith that this is going to amount to anything. I'm assuming that Asuka just beats Mandy Rose in a short amount of time. They don't know what they're doing for the next 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks before WrestleMania they go, yeah, Lacey Evans has been around, let's just have her against Asuka. And then the week before, the go home show, they're going, and Asuka's going to fight Lacey Evans. Isn't that interesting that this brand new person that you haven't really seen is going to be competing? That's kind of
she's
fun,
gonna
isn't
beat her
it, guys?
too, Tony.
Well,
she's gonna beat her too.
Yeah, and then it's going to be like, well, people said that they want these NXT people, and they're not going absolutely apeshit over them. And then it'll be like, because all you did for Lacey Evans was have her go down the fucking ramp. Like, you didn't actually build her the way that you've, at this point, built up Aleister Black and Ricochet, for instance. Certainly haven't done that with EC3, that's for sure. But it's really like, they get laser focused on something, and they're just like, Charlotte and Becky and Ronda. That's the only thing we can pay attention to. And then you're like, yeah, we've got like a whole, 5 hours worth of the rest of the card to build. And then they're like, well, we need 4 segments of Charlotte and Becky. And you're like, well, what the fuck? Like, poor Asuka's there. She's like, oh, I lost my undefeated streak for no fucking reason. Can you wait like an entire year to actually do something with me? And they're like, yeah, I'll give you the title. You can go into WrestleMania as the champion. And she's like, great, against 2. And they're like, we'll tell you at WrestleMania. Yeah. It'll be even worse if Mandy Rose wins this too. Because if Mandy wins, then that means that they never gave a shit about Asuka, really.
I don't see that happening. I won't go that far.
No, I'm assuming Asuka wins, but it's still just, even if Asuka wins, they're not going to give her much to go with.
Yeah, but Asuka's going to win. Retain her championship.
And she fights, she beats the crap out of Sonya Deville over the next week or so from SmackDown, and yeah. What other matches do we have on here? We've got, oh, you know what, we're talking about it, so let's just go to Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. This has swapped around a couple different times. We had a vacated title. This was supposed to be a title match. Now it's not vacated. It's not a title match. Now it's a number one contenders match, where the number one contender is either going to be the person who didn't win the Royal Rumble, or the person who didn't win the Royal Rumble and the person who did win the Royal Rumble, because that person was suspended twice and is injured. So they're overbooking the fuck out of this, but I have to admit, if I were a kid, I'd probably just buy into it 100%, just kind of be like, you know, hey, like, yay, Becky, you know. This will be good if they don't overbook the match itself, and it's sort of just, do they have it where it's it exists just to get to the end point, or do they actually have a match?
They actually have a match. At least a little bit of one. I know Becky's hurt, supposedly, but they gotta have some sort of a match. And I think either Ronda lays them both out, or Becky gets a quick roll up and then Ronda lays them both out. But we know this is going towards a triple threat.
Well, they have two options. Becky wins. The triple threat is solidified. And then they do whatever the fuck else. You know, like, Becky can win and then Ronda can attack both of them. Or they go with Ronda attacks both of them and then Stephanie or whoever just goes, I don't care, Becky's in the match anyway. Because remember, they've done that plenty of times in the past.
This story. And with this story in particular, it's just been like, you know what? I don't care. We're doing this. Becky won the Royal Rumble. Fuck it. Here's Charlotte. You know, Becky's suspended. Nope. She's actually got a title match. Oh, Ronda's back. Here's your title, Ronda. It's been a little overcomplicated for a story that doesn't need to be, but the characters are still interesting enough to, I guess, forgive it.
Yeah.
There's a long-standing rule in wrestling is that once you're over, you can basically do no wrong until you're not over. And this storyline is doing a lot of things. I don't say a lot of things, but it's overcomplicating, like you said, and it's making a few missteps along the way when it doesn't need to. But it's not doing any wrong because everyone's still incredibly over and excited about the match happening. So I don't think it's not too much of an issue. I think this match will be good, even though Becky's essentially working on one leg per story. But that means that Charlotte will essentially take control of the leg, do what she does, aim to get the figure eight on, and Becky will just battle back as hard as she possibly can. I mean, these two have good matches all the time. Every time we've seen them, it's almost always good. So I don't see any reason why this one won't be. I could easily see this being the main event of the show as well. I wouldn't be surprised.
There's three possible main events, and this is definitely one of the three.
Oh, yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised with a situation where Ronda Rousey essentially costs Charlotte the match because she wants the triple threat. So you have like the referee like take a bump, whatever. Charlotte is attacked by Ronda. Like Ronda beats her up in the same way that she beat up Becky in the last one, and then Becky wins, and then Ronda beats the crap out of Becky afterwards.
Or she just attacks Becky first, and they rule it a DQ, and Becky wins by DQ.
Yeah, but I mean, I will say that's a lame way of doing it, but you want to try and make Becky look strong still.
Yeah.
And I think the best way of doing that is to the best way to do that would just be to have her win the match. Because it doesn't hurt Charlotte. Charlotte's still going to be in the match, and it's Charlotte, so she's pretty much bulletproof anyway. So it doesn't hurt her to lose the match to Becky Lynch. But I can see it happen by some sort of like fluky roll up. I wouldn't say Charlotte needs to tap out, but she can get rolled up or something.
See, I lean more towards, like, I mean, they've got lots of options here. Like, just recapping, Becky can win straight up. Becky can win through some kind of bullshit. There could be a DQ where Becky wins. There could be a no contest, and then they just throw Becky into there.
Or they could just have Charlotte win.
Technically speaking, they could have Charlotte win, and then they can try to figure out some other convoluted way to put Becky in there.
Because let's go back to, I'd say No Way Out 2000, even further back than 2001 Wrestling Odyssey. I wish I could go through that reference, but I can't. But go back to 2000, where they had the Big Show defeat The Rock for the opportunity to face Triple H at WrestleMania, and then just somewhere along the line, The Rock got put back in the match.
Right.
So
They could do that,
and
guys,
then they had the match on a Raw just so they could say, all right, you won't do that at Mania. Here's Mick Foley. You're going to fight all of them. Oh, God, I hate this company.
They do that kind of shit all the time, and they could do these backwards-ass booking kind of philosophies and stuff, but we know that, obviously, it's got to be a triple threat at WrestleMania, so essentially, Fastlane doesn't matter. That's what, like, the cynical part of the viewpoint is, like the glass half full, glass half empty kind of thing. If you go half empty, it means, well, it doesn't matter. We're getting a triple threat at WrestleMania. And if you go glass half full, it goes, well, isn't it going to be interesting? Because we don't know how we're going to get that triple threat at WrestleMania. That's kind of how it is. Like, this could be overbooked and complicated and stupid and frustrating and the most convoluted way to get around to something that everybody knew was going to happen back at Survivor Series almost. Or they could just straight up be like, yeah, Becky wins, and there you go. And it's like, it's storyline and gaga. It's not a match.
How much do you think would be different right now if Nia wouldn't have busted up Becky's face?
Charlotte would be a babyface. She'd be fighting Ronda Rousey. Becky Lynch would be
fighting
on SmackDown.
Asuka. And she'd be fighting Asuka. Yep.
100%.
It's just interesting to think about how, stuff aligns like that. The one issue I have with this whole story is Charlotte and the handling of her character, because they started out good with turning on Ronda. I thought that was good. The TLC, was a good step. Royal Rumble was an okay step. It established her as more of a heel. But then by just making her the challenger, they kind of took whatever heat she had, at least for me, and just said, okay, well, you think she's the favored child, so we're going to make her the favored child. That's the story, is what's really going on. I just don't like it that much. That might just be me.
I think you're in the minority with that one. I think Charlotte is coming to her own now in her character because of the fact that she has been just essentially been proclaimed as the chosen one, which is just quite funny to me because the real chosen one is Becky, even though people don't like to think that way because they think, oh, Becky's had to force her way back into this match because they would never have picked Becky if she wasn't that good. Whereas now Becky is the chosen one because they realise how much money they can make with her and how over she is. And Charlotte's just a catalyst for it. They'll still give Charlotte opportunities and they still like Charlotte and Charlotte's still a big deal. But Becky's the flavour, well, not flavour of the month, but she's now the focal point to go forward with, at least for the time being.
Would you say that Charlotte is the Rock to her Stone Cold?
To a certain extent, but at the same time, I also kind of think that this is one of those things where WWE's done this in the past, and they could very well do it again in the future, and this is the glass half empty type thing. They see that the money's in Becky Lynch right now. They can't ignore it, but who's to say that they don't try to go, how do we get that onto Flair? Like, you had somebody like a Zack Ryder, for instance. This is a weird comparison, but follow me. Zack Ryder, popular as fuck at a certain time frame. And WWE's method of how to capitalize on that was, why don't we try to team him up with John Cena and make him, like, let's get the heat onto John Cena, and then we can push Zack Ryder off the stage and say thanks for that. Like, they could very well try to do that at some point this year with Becky.
Well, I could see them going more along the lines of the Chris Benoit Eddie Guerrero route, which is they're the big stars at the end of WrestleMania 20, but then 2 pay-per-views along the line, Eddie Guerrero's in the co-main event, dropping the title to JBL while the main event is The Undertaker against the Dudley Boys in a handicap match. And Chris Benoit's playing second fiddle to a Triple H and Shawn Michaels feud that just won't end. So it's the idea of like, well, Becky has the championship and she got the big moment at WrestleMania, so that's all that really matters. And she could be, and Charlotte could still be getting the bigger matches, or Ronda Rousey, whoever's they consider a bigger star. Whereas, Becky's still defending the championship. She's still a big deal, but, she's not top of the card in terms of the women's stuff. That's Charlotte versus whoever, or that's Ronda versus whoever.
I agree 100% with that Benoit comparison. That's spot on for how I'm thinking.
In a way, it's kind of the way that a lot of companies act and treat people who do a lot of like solid work. They kind of go like, well, we can always depend on that person to cover everybody else's slack. So we're going to say like, you didn't do all your work the whole time because you didn't cover everybody else's and stuff. Becky Lynch will be like, well, you're popular. You can put her in the mid card and people will care about the mid card. But if we put a lot of attention on these other people that we don't need to with the Becky like kind of thing, then the Becky shit will work itself out and fuck you. You can pay attention to the mid card. Here's the thing that we really need to market to you, and it's Charlotte versus whatever and that kind of thing. They could very well do that. But we have to get to that point too. And for now, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch at Fastlane. It's either going to be Becky gets her win, and she finds her way into the triple threat, or there's some kind of bullshit. And then we spend the next 4 weeks getting to the point where there's the triple threat. One way or the other, that's how it's going down. It's a triple threat.
Yeah.
So this is one of those things that maybe if you have the money and you've got like the betting odds, maybe put your money on a no contest. You might be able to win a lot more. But at the same time, probably a safer bet to just not bet on this one. Because WWE knows, they have to know, that people are going to look at this and go, Becky Lynch has to win. And they got to be so tempted to say, well, let's prove them wrong. Just put the thought out there, just for anybody that's betting.
I hope not.
So let's go to the WWE Championship match. Speaking of switching things around, Daniel Bryan was supposed to go up against Kofi Kingston. They announced it, and then they said, nah, Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is firmly a babyface now. It was kind of up in the air a little bit there, but now they had Mustafa Ali come out and save him from a 2-on-1 beatdown. So Owens is totally a babyface. And this probably was the match they were going to go with for WrestleMania until the Kofi Kingston thing kind of kicked in and became, super over and everything. Which kind of makes me think that it's probably the same kind of thing that you guys are thinking too. They swapped them. Kevin Owens at Fastlane, Kofi at WrestleMania, which means Daniel Bryan has to retain.
I don't know what they do with Kevin then, because they made it clear that they see him in a big role. But the only thing I know for sure is Kofi's got to get that match.
It can't be another triple threat. They can't just have every fucking WrestleMania match be a triple threat or a fatal four-way. That'll be just so ridiculous. Plus, it kind of kills Kofi's heat. Actually, kind of kills Kevin Owens a little bit, too. Because if you think about it, like, Daniel Bryan's going in as the heel. Kofi's definitely going in as the babyface. And if they put if they put Kevin Owens in a triple threat, then Owens is going to by default not be the top babyface, nor the top heel. He's going to have to play a tweener spot, and then that's kind of undoing his babyface turn,
I'm going to go back to the WrestleMania 20 reference. If they do that, then Kofi is Benoit, the scrappy underdog who had to fight for 11 years. Daniel Bryan's the heel champion, and Kevin Owens just becomes the babyface with a lot of steam, but because he's not the champion or Royal Rumble winner, he's just there. And I don't think that's a good look for Kevin Owens going into WrestleMania.
I think if it doesn't end up being like Samoa Joe against John Cena, as everyone predicts, then Kevin Owens could easily slot into the United States Championship match. Him and Joe would probably have a really good match because they're just two big, mean guys that could beat the crap out of each other. But
my assumption for that match is Actually, I'll spoil it. It's not John Cena or Kevin Owens. It's Ali. I think Ali fights Joe at WrestleMania.
I'm still going with Cena, so I think you're wrong. But
That's fair.
on that regard, at least, anyway. But I mean, with this match, I wouldn't be surprised if they just switched it around, and that just leads me to think that they don't really have plans for Owens, because I assume they didn't have plans for Kingston beyond potentially being in a SmackDown Tag Team Championship match.
Yeah, or the Battle Royal.
Yeah, and that'd be a shame for Owens, but you get to the point of where not everyone can be in a featured match on WrestleMania, unless you want it to be 8 hours long, and that's just the main card, because we've gotten too much into the mindset of everyone needs to have a WrestleMania moment, or everyone needs to have a big deal at WrestleMania. Realistically, WrestleMania should be the best of your best. And if your best match for the WWE Championship is Kofi Kingston against Daniel Bryan, then don't fucking mess with it. Don't just add people to it because you've got nobody, because, we don't have plans for this guy. Well, tough. It's just like, if you did it's annoying because this guy is so talented, but he's going to have other WrestleManias. He's got a 5-year contract, whatever it is. He's going to have another WrestleMania match and opportunity. Maybe he just sits this one out.
Well, here's the thing, too, that a lot of people are going to just kind of shit all over, but it's the truth. If you don't have room for certain people on the WrestleMania card and you put them in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, that helps the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. And everybody looks at this the way that they should look at it right now, because the truth of the matter is WWE looks at the Andre as filler and a means to get a bunch of people on the card. And that's it. That's why they put it on the pre-show every year. That's why whoever wins, they don't push them. It means absolutely nothing. It's literally there as just a distraction to put people on the card. But if you get people like a Kevin Owens, and they don't have another featured match, or Mustafa Ali, or Finn Balor, or if he's not holding the IC title at the time, or, whoever the case may be. If you get these people that are big enough names that they should mean something, and you put them in the Andre suddenly becomes this. If it wasn't a pre-show match, people would be like, oh, fuck. There's a lot of people in this, Like, they could make it something. They won't. But they could make it something like that. And you could have a guy like a Kevin Owens enter the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and try to make it feel like it's a bigger deal.
Yeah, they could easily just do that. I mean, again, I don't see... If he's not going to have any other featured match, and putting him into it would just shoehorn him into a situation where he doesn't really need to be. So we don't have, like you say, a ton of multi-man matches at WrestleMania, then just put him in the Andre Giant Battle Royal. I mean, it sucks for him, and it sucks for most people that are more credible, that could have a big match. Like, it's likely we're going to see people like Drew McIntyre in that match, or Elias. Like, people that are big deals and could definitely be in a more featured match, but, it's just not their time at the moment. It came around the wrong time for them. But they'll probably have other opportunities. And if they don't, then it's just sometimes the way that it goes. They're not big enough at that point in time. But just keep saying, just don't try and mess with the formula of something that works just because there are ingredients you've left on the side.
And I'm going to put this out there too. This is going to be something I might reference over the next 2 months or so. Actually, probably 3 months, 4 months even. Ooh, geez. Keep in mind, everybody, this is WrestleMania season. This is the time of the year where they're focused on the big things that they're focused on, and that's it. I mean, we were talking about that with the Asuka thing. They are very clearly... WrestleMania to them right now is the Ronda Rousey match, Triple H Batista, the Brock Lesnar match. What can we do with Roman Reigns? Let's figure out everything else. And that's going to be the case over the next 6 weeks. Once we get past WrestleMania, 2 weeks after WrestleMania, the night after WrestleMania, we got the Raw after WrestleMania, and that one's always a big show, and that's going to be potentially they incorporate some NXT people, maybe they don't, whatever. Then we have the Superstar Shakeup, and that's going to be a complete mess. Then we got a Saudi Arabia show. Let's book for what the Saudi Arabia people like, and it doesn't need to make any sense. And that's going to be a problem, and that's going to cause cross-branded type of feuds, and they're going to say, fuck it, who cares? We're just going to do this person versus that person because that guy wants to see it. That's how that's going to go down. And then we have Money in the Bank. And Money in the Bank is, let's throw a bunch of people in a Money in the Bank match and all that. It's going to take until we get to the build for Backlash for them to actually stabilize what's going on right now. We're literally not going to have a true idea of what 2019 is for WWE until May. Actually, no, until the beginning of June. We're going to take half of the year, all from Road to WrestleMania, Saudi Arabia, Money in the Bank, of just the pure chaos that this is. So people like Elias and Kevin Owens and McIntyre and all that, they might not get the ball rolling on them until June. And then at that point, Brock Lesnar will fuck off. Triple H won't be doing anything. Batista won't be doing anything. John Cena will be away for a while again. And then things are going to change again. So we might be in this weird kind of question mark period until June. Keep that in mind, everybody. But for now, Daniel Bryan has to retain.
Oh my god. Yeah, that was the match we were talking about.
Yep. So I brought you back.
Bryan has to retain, and I also want to just commend another thing Callum said. People are way too into the idea of everybody needs that moment at WrestleMania. Now, if it's like, well, if you didn't have the fireworks moment, then you mean shit. And that doesn't necessarily need to be the case. There can still be prominent roles for people who aren't in the WWE Championship match, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like getting commended. It's good. But yeah, Bryan will retain his championship here.
Bryan retains, and the planet is safe for another day.
Then it's just a question mark of, does Kofi win the title at WrestleMania, or do they say, ah, fuck you?
Oh, fuck that shit. He better. He better win the WWE title at Mania. Because, again, referencing WrestleMania 20, Eddie Guerrero had the moment at Mania. Yeah, he lost it 2 months later, but he had that moment, and that's one of those things that nobody can ever take away. And Kofi deserves that kind of moment that nobody can take away.
I mean, technically, Guerrero had his moment at No Way Out.
Yeah, I know. He retained it.
I know.
But I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
The Mania moment is the one that sticks out in the mind.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care even if he holds it for an hour. He can hold it for 10 minutes for all I care, as long as he wins it. But he has to win it at Mania.
He's got to win it.
Tell you what, that would be a hell of a way to debut somebody, though. If you have Kofi Kingston win the title at WrestleMania and he's celebrating in the ring, and then after the celebrations died down a little bit, then somebody comes out, beats him for it, and they're just like, hey, there goes I don't know, Dijakovic or something like that. And just be like,
yeah, man saw a black guy holding the title and just immediately brought out the most neo-Nazi looking guy he possibly could find to get the title back.
Suddenly Heidenreich comes back. Ugh, that'd be so much.
What's Nails doing in the Impacts?
Let's talk about our final match here. The Shield is reuniting to face Baron Corbin, Bobby Lashley, and Drew McIntyre. First question I have for you guys: what's up with Elias and Braun Strowman and Finn Balor and Kurt Angle and Lio Rush? Huh?
We don't ask questions here. We just let the Shield be the Shield. Everything that they've done so far has been feel good. It's worked. Just let them be the Shield. But I do want to point out that you're so trained to this that even though this is just a standard 6-man tag, you're going with this to end instead of the WWE Championship match because it's a SmackDown match.
Oh, 100%. It's not going to be Bryan Owens.
No.
It's one of the 3 potentials, but it's not going to be.
It's the least likely one, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
But
yeah, yay Shield.
And this is where I kind of think, as far as main event goes, do they end it with a feel-good moment, or do they end it with some kind of fuckery? And I'll get into that in a minute. But that's why I think that this is the main event.
It continues to amaze me how enduring the Shield thing is. how many times they've gone back to this well? At least a few times, or at least they've referenced it, whether it's them feuding with each other or reuniting or whatever. But they come back together after about a week's build to Dean Ambrose reuniting with the Shield, and the crowd just goes absolutely fucking crazy for it. It's just this is the group, and it's not going to be around for too much longer because, well, unless Roman somehow manages to convince Dean to stick around, and it will probably be Roman and Seth to be the ones to convince him to stick around, then Dean will be gone. But yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty big moment to see them united together again, even if it is for the last time. It's what they seem to be promoting it as a one-time only thing. But it's a 6-man tag. Shield 6-man tag matches are good. Typically, there's, like you say, there's a lot of people that have been part of this equation that have been left out. But frankly, Finn Balor's the Intercontinental Champion. He'll have a match at WrestleMania. Kurt Angle's probably going to have some sort of involvement at WrestleMania. They've been talking about this thing, whether it's a retirement match or not. Who knows? Lio Rush is still in this bizarre, abusive relationship with Bobby Lashley. I mean that in terms of like a manager, not as a sexual thing, but who knows behind closed doors anyway. But it's and then you have Braun Strowman, who basically just doesn't matter at this point in time. To be honest, I know you're still big on him, Tony. I'm not done with Braun Strowman, but I'm okay with him not even competing in WrestleMania or just being in the Battle Royal. He doesn't.
Admittedly, it's hard to be invested in him.
Yeah,
I
just doesn't mean anything right now.
Say I'm done with Braun Strowman. I'm good.
I still want him to be something, but he's clearly not the guy that they want to be focused on right now. Like, I can't even fool myself to say that that's the case.
I think he's starting the slow transition into big show territory of, oh, this guy could do comedy and he can sometimes be in the main event. He can sometimes be right at the start of the card. He can sometimes be in a tag team. He can sometimes be fighting for the mid-card title. Just that sort of thing rather than, oh, this could be like just your big main event guy for a while.
Like, right now, it looks like at WrestleMania, it'll be the Weekend Update guys versus him and Nicholas.
Well, see, here's where I can bounce around a couple different things. I would have to assume if we can get, which it's not going to happen, but if Bruce Pritchard were able to talk about this, he would probably say what Vince McMahon is saying now is the Corbin, Lashley, McIntyre thing, even though Elias has been a major part of this, because Elias has feuded more with Dean Ambrose than the other three guys. But we know Vince by now, by listening to this podcast, if what Bruce says is true. Vince assuredly is going, goddamn pal, the money is in the Shield. Who fucking cares about anything other than that the Shield is returning? That's it. That's literally the only focal point is we got those three together. Fuck all. Who cares if it's Corbin, Lashley, McIntyre, Elias, Lio Rush, if you throw, what was his name? Colby Carino into the fucking mix. Like, it does not matter to Vince McMahon. The only thing that matters is the Shield are out there, which means either the Shield wins and it's a feel-good moment, or Dean Ambrose fucks over and we get Dean Ambrose versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Those are the only two options. Now, the way you get to those points are a lot of different things. If Dean Ambrose is sticking around, do they want to do the Dean Ambrose heel thing the way that they had originally wanted to do? Or if he's sticking around, do they want to just go with the flow and say, well, people like him as a babyface, let's just keep him as a babyface? If he's not sticking around and he's leaving, do you want to bring him out there and have him just be like, hey, we want you to come back at some point, so we're not going to bury you on your way out? Or are you so bitter about it that you go, we need to fuck you over and have Roman Reigns beat you to prove a point so that way you're losing on your way out of the company in case you go to AEW? There's lots of shit going on here, and it's not as simple as just the Shield wins, they stand tall, and that's the end of it. But that's certainly a possibility.
So, this has been an honest reported thing that they're talking about doing Roman and Corbin at Mania, and I will die. Listen, the Shield can take these three guys and treat them like they did Kane and the Outlaws a few years ago, and then have Ambrose turn on Roman and Bale, and that's your WrestleMania match. At least that's a good match. And it's the one Shield match that they never did an angle with. They did the one match at Survivor Series, but they never did an angle. So do that. Don't do Roman versus any one of these three, unless it's McIntyre in a serious match. I don't want to see Corbin in a serious role anymore. I like Lashley in the IC title role. Don't do Corbin versus Roman Reigns.
I think the best outcome out of this is to have Dean cost Roman the match. I'd even go as far as to say have Roman be pinned. Because Seth's obviously getting the Universal title match. You have Dean look like they're going for the triple powerbomb. Dean essentially low blows like both of them, maybe even hits Roman with dirty deeds, walks out, Roman gets pinned by Corbin or something. Because that's even more worse. That Roman comes back for his big match. He's got the match with his brothers that he wanted, and he's the one that ends up taking the fall. And then you build towards the match for WrestleMania. And this is whether Ambrose is leaving or staying. This is the match that has the most drawing potential or get the crowd the most excited.
Mm-hmm.
Is to see an actual angle between these two and really, if Dean is leaving, Dean should get his ass kicked on the way out. Not so much like, oh, in a bitter way, but okay, you're heading out, you should be losing. Go out on your back, as they say. And
yeah, do the job for Roman.
And he would do a great job for Roman. Like, if there's any guy besides Seth that Ambrose will turn it up to any level 2 and will basically throw his body into the fire for, it's Roman Reigns.
Now, in order to get Seth away from this, do you hit Lesnar's music and distract him?
Ideally, you do something like that, yeah.
I think they could have a situation where you have, like, Roman gets beaten up, or along the lines of, in that match, you could even have Ambrose just lay a bit of a beating on him if you wanted to, but you could have just a Seth versus Dean match on an episode of Raw and have Lesnar interfere in that, and that distracts Seth's attention. But there's multiple ways you could do it. I don't think they'll have any difficulty of getting Seth out of this situation and just making it very strictly Roman against Dean. You could just have a segment on Raw where Roman says, "No, this is my thing. I appreciate you getting involved, but this is my issue with. You've had your issues with Dean. I've never had an issue with Dean. I mean, they might have had like little disagreements, but like they've never had any sort of rivalry. It's always been between Seth and Dean, which has caused the split between the Shield. Roman's always tried, but obviously he's fought with Seth when Seth was a heel. But ever since Seth turned babyface, it's always been Roman trying to act as peacemaker. So you just have a situation where Roman says, "This is my battle with him. Let me handle it," and then that just completely exonerates Seth from the situation.
It would need to be something where Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins would have to have some kind of a promo, and Seth would be like, "You see, I told you that we shouldn't have fucking brought him back," and Roman would be like, "You're right, dude. By the way, you've got your WrestleMania match. You've got to focus on Brock Lesnar. I know how hard it is to focus on Brock Lesnar. You do that, I'll take care of Dean." And then they just, the next week, they just don't put Seth in the same kind of crosshair as Ambrose. You know, it's just, they just move on. And then Baron Corbin and Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre, they do whatever the fuck. And because remember, we're also like, this is a fucking stacked WrestleMania card. There is the possibility that Kurt Angle retires. And if so, who does he fight? What do you do with somebody like the Drew McIntyre type? There was a rumor that Drew McIntyre might fight John Cena. Well, if John Cena fights Samoa Joe, then Drew McIntyre has nothing else to do. If he fights John Cena, they got to build that in the next 4 fucking weeks. I don't think that's going to be the case, but you got the Intercontinental title, you got Braun Strowman and all that, so you do have the ability to have Corbin, Lashley, McIntyre, and Elias all kind of tied in with Balor, Angle, and Strowman, and whoever else, you know, they throw in a fucking Apollo Crews if they need to for like a random match or something like that, and have some 8-man Intercontinental title fuck you match. I don't think they're going to call it that, but and then Roman Dean, and Seth goes and does his whole thing with Rollins, and Seth goes and does his thing with Rollins. Seth goes and does his thing with Lesnar, and they can kind of go about doing things like that because they already, again, the Cynic, they already got you with the Shield reunion. It already happened. They're going to have their match at Fastlane. People are going to do that. And then you do the turn at the end, and then you go, oh, let's get them interested in WrestleMania. If they just win, people will be like, oh, yeah, well, we knew that they were going to win. Like, that's the logical step. That's why I lean a little bit more towards the idea that Corbin, Lashley, and McIntyre win.
Yeah, I think I'm going to head that direction as well. It's either that or the Shield win and then Dean turns.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to go, if he makes more of an impact if the heels win this match.
I'm going with the Shield wins in very decisive fashion, and then Ambrose turns following a Heyman distraction or a Lesnar distraction, which gets Rollins away from the picture. However, if they do have the heels win, I hope Corbin doesn't get the pin, and that doesn't lead to promos of Corbin saying, I am stronger than leukemia.
I almost kind of want that to be the case now that you said that. But...
I'd hate that sort of... Well, I mean, it would be incredible, but like a promo where they says, oh, I beat leukemia. What excuse do your kids have when they die? What the fuck was Connor's excuse?
Oh, the heat. And then he comes out to accept the Warrior Award.
Yeah.
No, and the reason I suggested that is because it's rumored, well, not rumored, it's being locally advertised that they want to do Roman and Corbin at Extreme Rules. So, you know, they're definitely getting this Roman Corbin match in. I just hope it doesn't lead to tasteless promos like that.
We'll see. So this is an event that, at the very least, but you can tell by the way that we were breaking things down, it's not guaranteed that almost anything happens, except pretty much the fact that Revival's going to retain, Asuka's going to retain, Daniel Bryan's going to retain, and the Boston Hug Connection are going to retain, and the Usos are going to retain. Anything other than that, and there's even those are kind of up in the air a little bit too, but there's lots of unknowns here. Do we get Miz and Shane McMahon in a heel turn thing? Do we get Ronda Rousey attacking Charlotte and Becky? Do we get a no contest for that? Do we get a no contest between Mysterio and Andrade? Do we get Trish and Lita popping up? Do we get Kofi Kingston popping up? Is the Shield gonna break apart again? There's lots of unknowns, which means probably should watch Fastlane. You know, they got that going for them.
I agree. I think at the very least, I'm excited for the outcome of this show, and I don't know if I've felt that in particular. I've been excited for matches, and this should be a good match. But I'm excited for, okay, where is this all going, and what's coming next?
Very much so. So any other last thoughts you guys got for Fastlane before we wrap this all up?
This actually seems to be befitting the title Fastlane as opposed to Stopgap, or just parking a lay-by for a second, and then we'll get going to WrestleMania again.
What if it was just like WWE Crosswalk?
Yeah, this is going to be I think it's going to be a pretty good show, and it's starting on a little bit of a run of WWE putting some good shows together in a row. So hopefully it leads up to a very good WrestleMania show.
Alrighty, everybody. Well, we already said our thoughts, so make sure you drop your comments below. Tell us what you think's happening at Fastlane, whether we are completely crazy and overthinking things, and this is going to be as simple as, you know, Becky wins, Shea wins, whatever, like that kind of thing. Or maybe you've got some other conspiracy theories you want to toss out there. Go ahead and do that. And when you're doing that, subscribe on the YouTube channel and ring the little bell off there for notifications. Once you check that off, you'll be aware of when we get our next things up on the channel. And the next thing is going to be the Fastlane post-show. So we're going to break down what actually did happen after the event. And next week, I don't know. Because like I said, my game plan was originally fantasy booking, and I don't know if I'm going to do that. And If so, then we might have to switch some other things around. We might have to put something else out there. I completely question mark when it comes to this. So if you have any suggestions for me to potentially put into the mix, then toss those out there too. Make sure you are voting on the Smark Madness tournament because we're trying to decide what the best foreign object of all time is, which is so stupid. We've got the qualifying round going on right now, and on Friday morning, I will change that over to round 1, and Thursday night, I'll be shutting off the poll to set the bracket and do all that kind of stuff. So we're going to keep that going all throughout March, and I don't think there's anything else that you guys need to be aware of 100% right now. There will be a contest that's going to be posted pretty soon. You'll see that on the sidebar as well, so pay attention to that if you want to potentially win whatever it is that gets posted. I haven't 100% confirmed that yet, but we've got that going on. We've got plenty of other things happening on smarkoutmoment.com, so keep checking the website for anything else that pops up there. I've got, obviously, the Twitter account and the Facebook account that goes along with this at smarkoutmoment, so follow us over there. Head up to Patreon if you want to throw some spare change our way by jumping on the tiers and requesting certain topics and stuff. We're, just, helping out because any kind of money that you toss our way is going to keep the lights on. The same thing applies to the Redbubble and TeePublic shops. So if you want to pick up some merchandise, which they are currently on sale, I think. They might actually be on sale more than they normally are. So go ahead and double check that and head on over there to see if there's anything you want to pick up. Same thing with all this stuff when it comes to fanboysanonymous.com. I've got my Captain Marvel shit that's going to happen tomorrow, so I'll get a review point up about that. Follow the Facebook, follow the Twitter, blah, 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 blah. Head up to Patreon, the Redbubble, the TeePublic. Same exact stuff. Just start doing all the clicks. You'll figure out a bunch of other things happening there. I got Bleacher Report. I got e-wrestling news. I got way more things going on except for sleep, so you will see me all over the place. You will also see what these guys have cooking. Callum?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. I'll be appearing on, just putting my own stuff on the Smark Out Moments website for the power rankings this week. Probably, like as usual, coming out somewhere on Thursday or Friday, most likely Friday. And so while you're there, just check out all the other weekly stuff that's going on. And 2001, A Wrestling Odyssey. January and February episodes are already on the channel, so you can check out those at your leisure. The March one will be coming up in sometime in the next couple of weeks. I'm hoping to get it out reasonably a bit earlier than usual, but we'll have to wait and see on that regard. We'll just be covering, mainly going to be devoted to the death of WCW, as this is the killer month for them. So stay tuned for that. And Rob?
And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DudeFelice. Check out everything I've got going on at eWrestling News. Like Callum said, those 2001 podcasts are up. I also participate in those. The Triple Threat will be up sometime this week, likely Thursday or Friday. And that's it for me.
All right, guys, that's going to do it in for us for this edition. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for watching, listening, whatever you want to constitute that to be. If you are staring at the screen the whole time, then sorry that there's no visuals going on. But we appreciate it one way or the other. And we will see you with the Fastlane Pay-Per-Viewpoint post-show. So adios for now, everybody. We'll see you on Sunday night. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.